Good evening. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your Foul Player. And I wanted to make a short boxing video regarding what's my take with who's not making the Bud Crawford Errol Spence fight at this current juncture. And I'll be very short with. I'll come to my conclusion off the bat, and I'll explain why. And I think at this current juncture, and for the past couple of years, that the person who's putting more roadblocks like to make this fight happen is Errol Spence Jr. The reason I say that is based on what's coming out of his camp and out of his own mouth personally. Like when the topic was brought up a year ago, or it could have been almost 2 years ago now. He said he wanted to take the easy road and beat Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, prior to fighting a Bud Crawford. I mean, and that to me, like off the rip, it didn't sound right. Like, you know, I'm always a big proponent of all athletes getting their money. You know, if the owners get paid, I think the athletes should be getting paid too, or more. But just off the rip, like that answer didn't jive with me. Like at that time, I mean, like, you know, the like Sean Porter and Keith Thurman maybe like were probably like a tick below like what Bud Crawford was, like talent wise or skills wise, and nobody was talking about those fights. I mean, at that time, and even now, like Thurman was on the sideline for a lengthy period of time. Sean Porter, a lot of people would talk about him in a disparaging fashion. And out of Sean Porter's mouth during those times, there was a lot of evasive talk when it came up to the subject of Errol Spence. So for Errol Spence, like when questioned about Bud Crawford, during those times, for him to bring up somebody who's like on the sideline or who was currently evading him in Sean Porter, I mean, to me it just sounded like evasion from Errol Spence. You also go recently like to his coach saying that Bud Crawford doesn't sell tickets. I mean, like, their argument before was that Sean Porter didn't really sell tickets and they fought him. Danny Garcia, I mean, sure he sells tickets, but he's not a pay-per-view act, like, or he hasn't been a main event pay-per-view guy yet. But they're trying to like run that fight down our throats, and I'm not cool with that fight. Like, I thought that them trying to sell us on a Danny Garcia fight immediately after him beating Sean Porter, as many of you know, when he fought Sean Porter, Danny Garcia jumped into the ring in the post-fight, and you could tell like that we're trying to sell us on the possibility of that fight, and now they've been selling us on that fight for over 6 months. Don't want to see that fight. I never wanted to see that fight. It's just doesn't move the meter for me, the needle for me. The Danny Garcia's accomplishments in welterweight are just about equal to Bud Crawford's accomplishments. I mean, like, Danny Garcia lost to Sean Porter, he lost to Thurman. Some people say that he was chasing Thurman down in the latter portion of the fight. Yeah, he was. And he was still losing a lot of those rounds. Porter, I mean, it was a unanimous decision, and I think Porter beat him handedly. Now, why then, a couple months after you beating Sean Porter, would I want to watch the guy that Porter beat in Danny Garcia? But Danny Garcia's accomplishments in welterweights, his greatest accomplishment was probably beating Robert Guerrero. If you think about it, And that was how he won his WBC belt. It was for a vacancy. Um, and if I remember correctly, it was the vacancy left behind by Keith Thurman. So I mean, it wasn't like he beat a sitting champion to become the WBC champion. I think they just finagled it so one of those two guys could get it. At that time, Robert Guerrero, I thought, was a ghost, no pun intended, of his former self. And Danny Garcia was awarded that belt. I wasn't pumped about Danny Garcia getting that belt to begin with. I thought they should have had two other guys fight rather than Robert Guerrero. I thought it was cool that Danny Garcia was going to fight for it, but they should have paired him up with somebody more significant. But nevertheless, that's how he won his championship. At that time, Robert Guerrero had already lost to Mayweather. Leading up to that, he fought a Japanese guy, I forget his name, and I think he fought, if I remember, it might have been the that guy that was in the army that was also fighting at 147. I forget his name, but and I'm driving too, so you'll have to forgive me. But at that time, that was his biggest win. Before that, he had beat Paulie Malignaggi, and Paulie Malignaggi was also a ghost of his former self. And Paulie Malignaggi is just a name. I mean, he's always kind of been a name at 147. I'm wondering if he fought him at 147. But Paulie Malignaggi wasn't, the guy at any point, is what I'm trying to say. A lot of these guys were calling him out, but he wasn't, an attraction, so to say, or real heavy opposition. So, but those are his two biggest wins at welterweight. I mean, like, his recent fights, Ivan Redcash, I mean, I didn't know who Ivan Redcash was, like, really, or didn't get to see him fight on the night of a fight up until he fought Danny Garcia. I mean, and he struggled with him. I mean, he ain't struggled with him, but he didn't put him away. That wasn't the selling point to me, like, for a championship fight with Errol Spence. Danny Garcia's career at 140, I mean, it's top billing. He beat a lot of killers down there. He beat Amir Khan. He beat Lucas Matisse. At that point, I mean, even I may not have been at 140, but he had beaten Eric Morales twice. He had a few names on his belt. But once he got to the 147 ranks, I think they were engineering his career a little bit, like trying to give him names, spacing his fights out to where he was fighting twice a year. I get it that he did a lot of his work at 140, but right around the time that he got to 147, I thought that all the 147 guys were doing what they're doing today, like not trying to fight each other. So I mean, like, to say that Bud Crawford needs to fight some names, I mean, Bud Crawford has already done his thing. He's unified the division at 140. Postal was considered a killer right before Bud Crawford fought him. Danny Garcia didn't want to fight him, and he was supposed to fight him. He beat Django, whatever, that African guy, whatever his name is. But he unified the division. I mean, the division was a little bit whack at that time, but a lot of people thought Ndango was a risk at that time. Like, he was unbeaten. Postal was definitely a risk. I mean, what happened to those guys' careers afterwards? I mean, you could factor that in, yeah. But at the time that Bud Crawford fought them, they were nothing to be played with. And ultimately, I mean, like, Errol Spence has done a good job of making it seem that Sean Porter is not a big sell. So what's going to be Sean Porter's selling point for a matchup between he and Bud Crawford? I mean, like, the fact that he just lost to you, like, I mean, like, frankly, Errol Spence is not a big selling point. None of these guys are, like, big sellers. I mean, I think the guy who is the victor of Errol Spence and Bud Crawford will ultimately become a big seller. But Bud Crawford is avoiding Errol Spence. and Errol Spence is playing a bigger part in avoiding Bud Crawford. I mean, it can't be said. I mean, it can't like I mean, it's the main point of this video, but neither one of these guys could walk anywhere in New York and people would know who they are. They're not stars like that. Neither one. Like, make yourself a star. And it's not like neither one of these guys are like young guys. Like, Errol Spence is not a developing prospect. He's 30 years old. Bud Crawford is 2 years older than that, I believe. Like, get it on already, man. Like, we're already getting to the point where Bud Crawford, to me, looks like he's not improving or losing a step. And in the heels of post accident, I mean, you don't know what the physical ramifications are on Errol Spence, like, into the future, whether that's going to be a lingering injury, like what, post car crash. So why is it that I want to see a fight between these two guys? Why is it that that these guys can't just shake it up? I mean, sorry, man. There's like a panhandler, but I was gonna give him some change, but I had second thoughts because I don't want to be trying to shake my hand or something. But these guys, I mean, to me, they're both being pussycats. But more so Errol Spence, man. Errol Spence is a bird, bro. Like, the Sean Porter, I mean, like, a lot of people saying that he's calling out Bud Crawford. I have just now, like today, heard an interview where he mentions Crawford, and it was like his third option. Like, he mentioned Manny Pacquiao, he mentioned wanting to fight Errol Spence again, and then he mentioned Bud Crawford if he has a conversation with him. Like, shut up. Like, who wants to hear that? And that's supposed to fill his call out meter, like he's doing something special. That's nothing special at all. I haven't heard, in my eyes, I haven't heard Sean Porter call out Bud Crawford once. I haven't heard. I mean, when you present something as it's your third option, like, to me, that's not a call out. Like, because boxing fights, not like you could fight somebody in a week or two. Like, if you're saying you're gonna fight this guy, that guy, and then fight this guy, that's not a call out. That's evasion, and that's what Errol Spence is doing. That's what Errol Spence has done in relation to Bud Crawford. I mean, he's mentioned fighting Pacquiao, and I hope Pacquiao doesn't fight him, because him fighting Pacquiao or beating Pacquiao, it's just gonna make that fight harder to. God damn, bro! It's just gonna make that fight harder to happen. I think I could totally see Errol Spence beating Manny Pacquiao and acting like he's brand new, like he slayed some sort of Goliath, and maybe raise his demands as far as what his split should be. And off the rip too, man. I don't even think, like, I don't even view that at like a 60-40 fight. I think I did in the past, but knowing what I know now and how these boxes are, like, I don't even think it's gonna happen at 60-40, to be honest. Like, for to go in anybody's way, I think it should just straight up be a 50-50 fight. I don't care if it's a dollar each way, like, so long as the promoters don't get it. I don't care if, like, the loser gets paid zero, and the winner takes all the earnings. Like, make this fight happen. Like, it's not gonna be a humongous fight. I mean, I think it's gonna be at the level of as far as money making capability, like Wilder Fury Part 1, which is pretty good. I mean, that's decent. But the victor of that fight, you're onto huge things, like, in the future. Go fight MMA guys, like, for if you want. Like, after that, I mean, like, for all I care, I just want to see that fight happen, and that's the fight that you guys may not agree with me, but we're never gonna see that fight. And at this time, I mean, I think the bulk of the blame goes into the direction of Errol Spence Jr. I mean, take it how you will. Leave a comment if you disagree or agree with me. And with that, I'm out. Thank you for stepping into the Foul Playland. Be safe. I'm at the epicenter of the coronavirus as we speak, right by Bryant. Oh, not at the epicenter. Actually, the neighborhood next to my neighborhood is the epicenter of the coronavirus. The neighborhood I grew up in is Sunset Park, and right next to that, Borough Park, is the neighborhood where you see the people being loaded into the semi-trucks like corpses. That's right around my way. I grew up on 45th, 6th Avenue, and Maimonides Hospital, where that is at, is in 9th Avenue and 49th Street in Borough Park, Sunset Park borderline. So yeah, y'all be safe out there, man. Like, don't shake nobody's hands ever. I don't shake people's hands. People get offended. I mean, like, it's too bad. But it's fist bumps for me, like, even in the past. And to those that have gotten offended in the past before, I mean, I told you so. But yeah, I mean, like, try to stay safe. Wash your hands, like, wash your ass. Don't be a pig. And use this time to fortify your relationships with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. With that, I'm out. Don't believe the hype. Don't get too hysterical with this stuff going down. This is the other part of that's the side entrance of Grand Central Station. This Momo is on the bridge taking pictures. But yeah, with that, I'm out. Thanks for checking me out. Peace.